Imagine holding a tiny piece of history in your hand that could instantly be worth a fortune. These most rare UK Elizabeth V new pence coins aren't just pocket change, they're hidden treasures that collectors and investors around the world. The extremely rare 1968 UK Elizabeth V new pence error coin, depending on its condition and the type of error it carries. Yes, a coin that most people ignore could actually change your life. Imagine this: you're holding a simple, old, dirty 5 new pence coin. Something you might find in an old drawer, a forgotten piggy bank, or mixed inside a jar of spare change. But what if I told you that one specific coin? The story of the 1968 UK Elizabeth V new pence coin begins with the United Kingdom's transition toward decimalisation, a huge moment in British monetary history. Before 1971, the UK used the old pounds, shillings, pence system, but with a modern world rapidly changing, it became obvious that a decimal structure was the future. That transformation required new coins, and one of the very first to enter circulation was the brand new 5 new pence in 1968. One of the earliest confirmed and most dramatic mistakes is the off-metal strike. These occur when the Royal Mint accidentally strikes a coin on the wrong metal planchet. For the 1968 5 new pence, the planchets were cupronickel, but during the chaotic testing and production phases, different blanks were mixed with experimental metals. Imagine discovering struck on a bronze penny blank or on a nickel brass blank intended for another denomination. Coins like that are so rare that they can sell for £10,000 to £50,000, and in exceptional cases. A broadstrike happens when the collar, which keeps the coin perfectly circular, fails during minting. The 1968 series, because of its early machinery, experienced collar failures more often than other decimal years. A broadstruck 5 new pence appears stretched, wider, and slightly distorted, and because it happened during the first year of the new pence series, collectors pay extraordinary premiums. A dramatic broadstrike from 1968 can sell for £5,000 to £20,000, depending on how extreme it appears. An off-center strike means the blank wasn't properly aligned under the dies, creating a coin with missing design areas and large unstruck blank surfaces. For newer decimal coins, off-centers are common, but for 1968, the very first decimal year, they are extremely scarce. The Mint was using stricter quality control because these coins were going to the public before decimalisation even began in 1971. That means most errors were destroyed, so the surviving ones are unbelievably rare. A 1968 off-center strike with 30 to 70% misalignment could bring £10,000 to £40,000. A mule happens when the Royal Mint accidentally pairs the wrong obverse die with the wrong reverse die. These mix-ups usually occur during die testing and experimental production. For the 1968 5 new pence, there are rumors and a handful of claimed examples of coins struck with mismatched dies from either other testing blanks or obsolete designs. What if I told you that one specific coin, the 1970 UK Elizabeth V new pence coin? Picture this: you're holding a tiny silver-colored 5 new pence coin from 1970. It looks simple, ordinary, almost too common to care about. A coin that people dropped, lost, ignored, and tossed into jars without a second thought. Yes, a small forgotten British coin minted over 50 years ago could change your life instantly if it carries the right error. The 1975 new pence has a special place in British coin history. Unlike the earlier 1968 and 1969 issues, the 1970 coins were never released into general circulation. Instead, they were minted exclusively for collector sets, the farewell sets of the pre-decimal era, just before the United Kingdom officially switched to a fully decimal system in 1971. One of the earliest and most surprising error types is the double-struck proof coin. Proof coins are normally struck twice by design, but mistakes happen when the coin rotates or shifts between strikes. This creates a ghost-like double image on the Queen's portrait or the thistle. On a proof coin from 1970, this is unbelievably rare, and collectors will pay £5,000 to £25,000 depending on clarity. Proof coins often show die polishing lines, but when a die is over-polished, it can eliminate parts of the design entirely. These are called die abrasion errors. Imagine the thistle missing details or parts of the lettering fading away. A strong die abrasion error from 1970 can easily bring £3,000 to £10,000. The off-metal strike is one of the rarest and most valuable error types for this coin. Because these were proof coins, struck on specially prepared cupronickel blanks, the chance of mixing the wrong metal is tiny, almost impossible. But the Royal Mint was experimenting with new blank compositions during the transition to decimalization. A few accidental strikes are believed to exist on bronze blanks, nickel brass blanks, and even aluminium test blanks. A genuine off-metal 1975 new pence error could sell for £20,000 to £50,000 and even £100,000 depending on the metal and proof quality. One of the most dramatic minting disasters is the off-center strike, where the coin is struck with part of the design missing. For regular circulation coins, this happens occasionally. But for proof coins? Almost never. Proof blanks are individually placed into the press by hand or by precision machinery, so alignment errors are nearly impossible. That's why a 1970 off-center 5 new pence is considered one of the holy grails. If you ever find one even slightly off-center, it could be worth £50,000 to £150,000. The 1970 UK Elizabeth 5 new pence error coin may be small, but its history, its rarity, and its mistakes make it one of the greatest hidden treasures in British numismatics, so the next time you see a proof set from 1970, don't ignore it. Don't assume it's ordinary. Don't let history slip through your fingers. What if I told you that one single coin from this year, a 1971 UK Elizabeth 5 new pence coin, imagine this, you're holding a small silver-colored British coin from 1971. It feels light, ordinary, and completely unimportant. A 5 new pence that most people would throw in a drawer or leave forgotten in old jars, could secretly be worth more than a luxury car, more than a house, more than a lifetime savings if it carries the right rare minting error. And the most exciting part, millions of these coins were released in 1971, the very first year of full decimalization. Let's travel back to 1971, a year that changed British currency forever. The United Kingdom officially abandoned the centuries-old pre-decimal system and replaced it with the decimal system we know today. The Royal Mint was under enormous pressure, producing hundreds of millions of new coins while simultaneously phasing out old denominations. Production machines ran almost non-stop. New dies were created. Old dies were repurposed. Blanks were transported in massive batches. And the minting presses struck coin after coin after coin at lightning speed. One of the earliest and most surprising errors involves the double strike. When a coin is struck twice in slightly different positions, the image appears doubled, the queen's profile looks ghostly, or the thistle appears blurred. Because 1971 was a mass production year with high-speed machinery, double strikes sometimes slipped through. These coins, depending on how dramatic the doubling is, range from £500 to £10,000 with extreme full-shift double strikes reaching £20,000 or more. But things get even more exciting when we talk about off-center errors. These happen when the coin blank is not perfectly aligned inside the press. Off-center strikes are always valuable, but a 1971 5 new pence with a major off-center strike is worth far more because first-year decimal coins are highly collectible. A minor off-center might bring a dramatic 30% or more off-center strike. That can easily hit £25,000 to £50,000. And if the Queen's portrait is partially missing, that pushes the value even higher. But let's go deeper. When the minting dies are misaligned vertically, it creates a misplaced die clash, leaving strange ghost-like shapes on the coin, shapes that look like the thistle overlapping the Queen's portrait or strange outlines floating across the fields. These dramatic clash errors could fetch £3,000 to £20,000 depending on visibility. Another powerful error from 1971 is the broadstrike, where the collar that shapes the coin's edges is missing. A broadstruck 5p appears wider, flatter, and stretched beyond its normal diameter. Because this year's coins were made in massive quantities during the high-pressure decimalization period, broadstrikes are known but still extremely rare. Depending on severity, these can bring £5,000 to £40,000 at auction. The 1979 era UK Elizabeth 5 new pence coin. It might sound like just another small British coin that most people walked past, tossed into a drawer, or left forgotten at the bottom of an old purse. But what if I told you that a tiny mistake made inside the Royal Mint over 45 years ago accidentally produced one of the rarest and most valuable modern UK coins in circulation? What if I told you that a coin worth only 5 pence on paper could secretly be worth hundreds, thousands, or even under the right circumstances millions of pounds? This isn't just a story about a small coin. This is a story about a Royal Mint mistake so rare that collectors around the world are still debating exactly how many were made or whether some examples were never meant to escape the mint at all. It's a story of hidden minting errors, wrong planchets, missed strikes, design. Before we talk about values that can make your heart stop, let's set the stage. The year 1979 was a turning point for British coinage. One of the most dramatic errors discovered on the 1979 era UK Elizabeth V new pence coin involves an off-center strike so extreme that part of the design is missing entirely. Imagine Queen Elizabeth's portrait shifted dramatically to one side, or the reverse lion design cut off by a smooth edge where the metal simply didn't reach the dies. These off-center errors can be tiny or they can be shocking, and the bigger the error, the bigger the value. A sharply off-center example, especially one showing the full date, can easily fetch £500 to £3,000 depending on condition. And let's not forget double strikes, those magical moments when the coin is struck twice instead of once, leaving a ghostly duplicate image. On double strike error is one of the most visually dramatic mistakes a collector can find. Imagine seeing two overlapping portraits of the Queen or two lions on the reverse, slightly shifted and creating a haunting, almost holographic effect. A clean, dramatic double strike can sell for anywhere from £1,000 to £15,000 depending on sharpness and rarity. When it comes to grading and condition, the value of the 1979 era UK Elizabeth V new pence can skyrocket just based on sharpness and preservation. A coin with crisp detail and minimal wear can easily multiply in value. An uncirculated example with a dramatic error can go from being a £500 curiosity to a £10,000 masterpiece, and if that same dramatic error appears on a coin graded at MS65 or higher by a professional grading service. Let's talk real numbers, because this is where things get truly exciting. A typical smaller error might fetch £2,000 to £5,000. Off-center strikes can go for £1,000 to £3,000. Double strikes can easily reach £10,000 or more. Wrong planchet errors can soar into the £20,000 to £50,000 range. And the ultra-rare, possibly unique compositions or extreme mint state survival examples, those are the ones that could fetch £100,000 to £250,000. The 1980 era UK Elizabeth V new pence coin. It sounds like a simple small coin, the kind of coin millions of people handled without ever giving it a second thought. But what if I told you that hidden among those everyday coins is one of the rarest, most mysterious, and potentially most valuable error coins ever released during the early years of Britain's decimal era? What if I told you that a coin worth just 5 pence on paper could secretly be worth hundreds, thousands, or even under the right extraordinary circumstances millions of pounds? Let's take a moment to travel back to 1980. Decimal coinage was now fully established in the UK. Millions of 5 new pence coins were circulating. The Royal Mint was producing coins at a massive scale, ensuring the entire country had a steady supply of new currency. But with high-speed machinery and millions of blanks being processed every week, even the Royal Mint, famous for its precision, was not immune to mistakes. Hidden among the enormous 1980 mintage are rare and shocking errors that transformed ordinary coins into extraordinary treasures. The first category of errors collectors look for is the wrong planchet strike. Imagine a 1980 era UK Elizabeth V new pence mistakenly struck on a blank intended for a completely different denomination or even a foreign coin. A planchet that's too small, too thin, too heavy, or made from a different metal. These accidents often occurred when leftover blanks from other coin batches accidentally slipped into the press. A wrong planchet error from 1980 can be worth hundreds or even thousands of pounds in almost any condition because they are so rare and so visually obvious. But a wrong planchet error in high grade? That's where the magic happens. Values of £10,000 to £20,000, even £50,000 and higher are absolutely possible for the most extreme examples. But the most legendary stories surrounding the involve even stranger minting mistakes. One of these is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank is not seated properly in the press, causing the design to land noticeably off-center. The portraits shift. The lion on the reverse might be cut off. The edge looks uneven. Small off-center strikes can be interesting, worth maybe £100 or £300. But the big ones, the dramatic, extreme off-center strikes where the date is still visible, those can sell for thousands. In top condition, some collectors would easily pay £3,000 to £10,000 for an extraordinary example. Another dramatic error is the double strike. This happens when the coin is struck twice, leaving two overlapping images on the same coin. With a double strike can look surreal. Almost like a ghostly echo of the Queen's portrait or two lions on the reverse. Mild double strikes might bring £200 to £500, but severe, unmistakable double strikes,